go ahead, Andrew or Vinny, whoever would like to start first.
I'll let you go first, Vinny.
No, come on, Andrew. Be my guest.
Okay, I'll start. So I'm Andrew Bish. I operate a couple different businesses, Bish Enterprises and Hemp Harvest Works, based out of a little town called Giltner, Nebraska, right in the center of the country. We've been in business since 1976, providing agricultural harvesting solutions to growers, and we entered the hemp space in late 2015, focusing mainly on the harvesting part of the industry. In about 2018, we stepped into providing other pieces of equipment to the industry and trying to provide more of a complete solution for producers after watching what had happened to producers in 2016 and 2017 with, not reputable people selling people things that they don't need. So that's really what we've continued to do and expand out our product platform to include things from putting seeds into the ground all the way to decortication equipment and extraction equipment on the backside. So quite an expansive line. My expertise mainly is in the agricultural side of things, as well as machinery, research, development, and manufacturing and production. So that's what I do pretty much every day of my life. In the past few months, we've actually stepped into a space of doing some decortication work and providing some efficiencies to the processes that we've been using and are currently doing decortication on a daily basis. So that's a little background on me and what I do.
Okay. Well, I've been in the hemp industry for several years as well. The way I began was doing my own processing equipment. I'm an engineer, so I like to do things the right way, I guess. And we started doing processing, and 4 or 5 years ago, when I saw the trend of how hemp was growing, I thought we needed a bigger extraction system. I remember that back then I was doing 720 pounds per day, and everybody was excited thinking I was doing massive amount of processing. And I thought I need something to do at least 10,000 pounds because I thought this is going to be the future on extraction. Well, looking at equipment, imagine that I remember that the best sellers on crude oil back then, we did $16,000 a kilo. So for those of you that are selling right now at $75 or $100, imagine the big difference, right? So I thought that was the future. And trying to find bigger equipment here, there was nothing big, nothing industrial, nothing at the scale that I was looking for. And because I've been working with China in different industries in the past, I went to China looking for equipment. And lo and behold, I find that almost every single tea, herb, and medicine that is in China, they've been doing extraction, butane, propane, CO2, ethanol. And it was amazing finding that they have great products, which I love. When they saw what I was doing, I told them, I will love your system, but I want to do some changes. So we did some changes on the equipment, and I ended up going as a consultant in a province called Hunan in China because they didn't know exactly how to do the extraction. But they showed me what they were doing on fiber. For me, it was completely new. I had no idea what fiber was, but I got excited. When I came back here to the US, I started doing research, and it took me like a couple of hours just to realize I don't want to be in the CBD oil anymore. I want to get rid of this as soon as. And I have my facility in Colorado. We partnered with another good friend of mine. We created Global Hemp Solutions, and we were selling equipment for extraction, dryers, separation equipment, extraction, all kinds. But my focus was fiber. We decided to do fiber as soon as possible because it was the best thing. I sold my facility on extraction. I'm not working on Global Hemp Solutions anymore. We created another company called it Global Fiber Solutions. And the goal is to install the largest industrial hemp fiber processing facility in the world. The idea is to process 500,000 pounds every single day, because we believe that volume is the key if you want to be profitable on this. I always say this, and maybe it doesn't sound properly, but this is called industrial hemp. And we shouldn't be treated as a home-based business with the small decortications. Not pun intended, Andrew, because I told you that I love the systems that you guys promote. This is us.
Hey, can you guys hear me? I guess my camera's off.
We
I would
can.
love to dive into some questions. I don't know if there's, again, if you guys have specific questions or direction you want me to go, I'm going to start at the top of these and just start asking questions. If both of you want to, bounce off of each other or really discuss or break it down, I would appreciate that. I think one of the most reoccurring questions we get are what are best methods or best practices, or why are each of the decortication facilities that are being used or implemented, why are they both sitting at the top, or why are they both best? And I'd love to hear from both of you.
Oh, I'll go ahead for a second, Vinny, if that's okay. I think that's an excellent question, and I don't know that we know the answer to that yet, to be honest. To me, it's an efficiency question. What's the most efficient process that produces the results that you need to go to your end customer? And because we don't know what that end customer looks like most of the time right now, it's really hard to, put a finger on that. We've got some, I definitely am confident that Vinny's got some ideas on equipment that is efficient, that works, and I've got my ideas on that. But at the end of the day, we've got a lot to work through, and we really have to understand, just like in the cannabinoid market, it's understanding what that end product looks like, what that end commodity needs to look like to get from one place to the other. If you want long line fiber, the processing equipment that you're going to use for that would be dramatically different from a situation that you're only looking for short pieces of fiber. And so those would be two completely different pieces of equipment. So I guess that's what I would say to that. There's some great equipment out there, but we really need to understand what that end market looks like, and then start to walk that backwards to identify which of those pieces of equipment that are available right now are going to meet those needs relative to the efficiency necessary to be profitable.
Yes, I agree completely on that with Andrew, because the issue is this. I think that people ask the wrong question. It's not which system is the best. The question that you're asking should be, what is the system that I need to use based on the results that I want? And it's kind of like what happened with this, when we were doing extraction, people always ask, which one is better, ethanol or CO2? And I was always telling them, that's the wrong question. The question is, what are you trying to do? If you're trying to do isolates, or you're going to try to collect the terpenes first, then CO2 maybe is the best option. But if you're going to do all the way to isolate, ethanol will be faster, but it's different. In this case of the cortication, it's exactly the same idea. What are you trying to achieve? And then based on that one, then you choose the best system. And in my opinion, each system is good if you know exactly where you're trying to get. But if you don't know where you're going, you don't know if you're going in the right direction. So the systems could be good. The question is, what is the end result that you're looking for? No wrong equipment, but it's just wrong planning, I guess.
Can you speak to some of those, with your systems, where, what you're seeing end product moving into? What industries are you seeing the products move into, and where are you processing into, Vinny and Andrew? Okay,
so the system that we promote, and it's not a system that we promote because we sell the system, that's the one we want to install. And it converts the straw into 4 products or byproducts. I don't know how to call them because there's still no numbers of how to, but it's going to be long technical fiber. Majority of people identify this one as a textiles, even though you can use the long technical fiber for wood process or composites. Then the rest would be the short fibers that you can use for non-wovens, but not only for that one, you can use it for other areas. The herd is what we call it, or sheets, depending on where you are in the world. The woody stuff, then you can use it for, again, different uses, and the dust. And the dust you can pelletize it and use it for biofuel. You can use it for animal bedding, not animal feeding yet, but at the end, the idea is to try to use 100% of the plant in order to be able to provide as many products as you know exactly. The composites, the biochar, battery, the oil absorption, and so on and on and on. It will be depending on what kind of products are you trying to build, and then how you want to process, not how, what is the best equipment to process to get the results or the raw material that you need for your fine end product.
And I think it's also important for people to understand that when we're dealing with the, the stock commodity, we end up with a lot of different fractions that come off of this plant, depending on, how you're processing it. Currently, the marketplace is, there's more interest in hurd. And in my opinion, that's mainly because of the fact that you can distribute hurd in lower quantities. You don't quite need the volume of hurd to be able to go into pet bedding today that you might need for fiber. When you look at the fiber markets, one of the challenges that we've had in the United States is the lack of processing has led to the lack of uptake in the marketplace. You can't go to a company like, Levi's, for instance, with enough hemp fiber to, sew 1,000 pairs of pants together. They need to be able to understand that you can provide them fiber for the next 3 to 5 years. And then when we're able to do volumes of material like that, then the marketplace is going to start picking that up. Right now, again, we're seeing a lot of hurd being sold throughout the marketplace. And when you're looking at the economics of this, understanding that if you are a processor looking to do fiber, so let's say you get some sort of contract for a short fiber or a long fiber, 70% of your commodity, the byproduct, is going to be this hurd. And you're going to have to find offtake for that in order to make the rest of the system work. So there's really a balance out there that will have to occur in the marketplace for this commodity to ultimately become profitable for people and to make good sense of it.
Well, there's two things that we need to mention on that side is that the fiber, you cannot use it for textiles immediately. It has to be cottonized. There's two options to do it. You can do mechanically cottonization or chemical cottonization. And the best option is to use wetting the fiber in order to use for cottonization. So if someone is telling you that from this system, you're going to be able to use it for textiles, they don't know nothing. And I know that the Global Hemp Solution Association, the Global Association has something with textiles, and they know that it has to be cottonized in order to be used for textile. The experience that we have had is that we've seen between 50 to 55% of the straw become hurd. And that is maybe, Andrew, because the SOPs that you were using and the genetics that you're using and the time that you're taking to process or to harvest. Of course, if you take more time and you're trying to get, like, maybe not you, but the farmers are growing, if they're trying to go into getting seeds and flour from that one, then they might getting more woody stuff or more sheeps or herd. But if you want to get, be able to get long technical fiber that you can cottonize, you have to process it and harvest it shorter periods. That will give you only 50 to 55% of the straw converted to herd. But
yeah, I completely agree. And to me, that's one of the parts of the industry that very seldom gets talked about. We're looking at how do we find offtake for fiber? How do we find offtake for herd? How do we, go to market with all of these commodities? Well, we don't have genetics that are stabilized and certified for most people in most places. The very first piece of this puzzle hasn't been sorted out, at least in America. We know what varieties are likely to do well in different areas, but there's not been a large enough scale test to effectively identify, the truth of that. And to Vinny's point, if we don't know those things, it's hard to really have a farmer deliver the product that you want. What we're working with right now is material that we can buy. A farmer grew it. They've got lots of bales of it, so we're processing it. And that to your point, Vinny, that's exactly why we're seeing some of what we're seeing. Where if we went with a more specific fiber variety, planted it at a shorter period, maybe harvested at 70 days versus 150 days, we'd be seeing a completely different result. So the way that we deal with it agriculturally absolutely makes a big impact on the back end of it. And we've got to do a lot of more work there.
Yes. I saw a question that Eric, sorry, Eric, if I don't pronounce your last name properly, Mangina or something like that. I'm sorry, I apologize.
Don't even worry about it. I'm used to it, but I appreciate it, Mr. Villatoro. I mean,
Yes.
it's
Thank you. Yeah, Villatoro is the right way to pronounce my last name. Thank you very much, Eric.
no,
So
I
the
speak
question,
Spanish. Sí.
okay, un placer. So the question is, what if 70% of the leftover the herd could be repurposed for or modified to a molecular level? And that's one of the things that right now we're working. We created a product that hopefully we're going to be creating hemp straws that are going to be biodegradable in 70 days. We're talking about the way you want to process the herd. If you use you use certain equipment, then you can grind it to a kind of like a powder, not molecular level, Eric, but it's gonna be grinded to a powder that you can use as a filler, so you can create some bioplastics for that one. So the herd, the majority of people right now are using it for hempcrete or hemp blocks or kind of hemp wood or something like that. But if you grind it, you can use it for bioplastics or polymers or any other stuff. I've seen people use the herd that is being grinded as well with the long technical fiber filler to be like a better solution to have more fine woods because they're using the long technical. So again, the question is not what can you do? I guess that the people need to start working is this is what I want, and then go backwards. And they say, okay, in order to get this, then how can I process it in order to get it to the way that I want? And remember one thing, Eric, is one of the things important here is the majority of the plant is cellulose. So, and the cellulose is not only on the long technical or on the short fiber or on the herd. The cellulose is all over the plant. If that's what you're trying to use.
Vinny, thank you for going into that. So just let me elaborate on that question. Okay, because I think I understand where you're going with it. So then let me throw an example. I spoke with someone and she said that she wanted to look into fishing nets, right? So we would need a long strain example. And the reason why I was asking was because I'm looking to experiment because you went to saying bioplastics, which I actually have an algae that's a biopolymer, and I'm merging them to create a type of material that through a yarn machine with hemp mixed into it, we would make basically a biopolymer algae mixed with the herd to make a long string. And hopefully in this project case for fishing nets, we would replace nylon. We haven't worked out the kinks, like you said, biodegradable, 70 days, that would be great. We haven't worked out that kink yet because that's R&D. But to go to your point, I do agree that I do feel that how does one properly find then the market demands? Like, for example, I found one demand, which is a fishing net example, but there's other applications in textiles like that I would be looking for. How do I go about finding those markets? Thank you.
Oh my good. Do you mind if I say something about that, Andrew? Or
yeah, go ahead.
The issue, I guess, over there, it will be that you might not need the powder. What you will need is to mechanically cottonize the long technical fibers to a very fine thread that you can then, after that, once you have mechanically cottonized it, then you have the spinner technology to use it kind of like yarn, because it's going to be stronger. If you use the powder as a filler for your polymer, even though I don't know the structure of the polymer, I don't think it's going to be strong enough to hold the fish. In our case, because the straws or the plastic bags that we're trying to use the polymer and you use the hemp powder as a filler, it's okay because it doesn't have to be too strong. But if for the net fishes, I will go, if you ask me, this is not about choices, right? But this is process. I will try to use the textile, the long technical fiber mechanically. You have to use mechanical cottonization and then spinners. That will be the best solution. I'm sorry, Andrew.
Oh, you're fine. You're speaking to one of the challenges that we have though in the industry, Eric, which is you found somebody that wants a thing, and that thing is going to utilize about 10% of the stock material that you have, and now you've got to figure out what am I going to do with the other 90% so I can make this profitable, because that fishing net might not be the worst idea. But if you don't have a way to deal with that 90% of the material that you can't use in that fishing net, that's where you're going to end up with a problem. And so you asked, where do I find the other markets? And as we continue to me, it's a slow process. The market is developing itself around us, and as more people find products and solutions, we see more people find products and solutions. It's a natural evolution that's occurring, and it's like a large snowball that's rolling downhill. But it's not going to happen. Some of these things aren't going to happen until they happen. And for you, I guess what I would challenge you to do is look at what are some things that you can do with that other material that you have sources for in and around you, because you also have to consider with this commodity that the shipping of it around the country, depending on whether it's a fiber or a hurd or an end product, is going to severely impact your profitability again. And we need to be aware of where those commodities need to be relative to the processing and then what you're producing.
Oh, if Andrew was talking to you, Eric, or to me, but I'm gonna hope that it was to me, so I want to say something. The idea of our facility, the idea of our facility is we're not gonna be creating any kind of products. And it's kind of sounds weird that I'm saying. We are not creating products. The idea is just provide raw material for the hemp manufactured products. So our processing facility, the only thing we'll do is just process the hemp straw into either long technical fiber, short fiber, the herd of the dust. And then when we find clients like Eric, when Eric comes to us and says, this is what I want to do, then we will say, oh, okay, for you, I think the long technical fiber is the best solution because of this and this and that. If someone comes and says, we are trying to do some bioplastics, I think you can do short wovens because you're trying to do mixed. So we are not going to be providing end products, the processing facility. But in my case, I am way too active. I cannot be stopped. I cannot stop dreaming. So I already went and designed products like hemp straw, but that's not the hemp processing facility that we are going to be building. And that's what I know, that we need to use the polymers with the dust. But you are right, Anne. The key, if someone is going to be processing, is, in your case, Eric, if you grow the hemp for you, and you buy an equipment to process, and the only thing you need is the long technical fiber, then Andrew is right. If you grow it properly, you should be getting between 20 to 22% of long technical fiber. The other 80%, you need to find, where do I put it? So that's why we think that as a processing facility, you will not have that issue. And because of the volumes that we're planning on processing, the economies of a scale, we're going to use it to give you better deals and better price. I think that if I'm correct, I don't know if I can mention this one, but hopefully Brian agrees with me that we believe that the long technical fiber is going to be even cheaper than cotton because of the economy of scales. And then you don't have to be worried about how do I process it, what kind of SOPs do I do, because you ask Eric as well, what genetics use, what strains do I use, that you don't have to worry about that. Let us, me or Brian's company, hopefully he's going to be able to sell you as well. Then let us do that. And then you just buy the materials that you need at economy of scales. And then it could be a win-win solution. We're not going to be developing, well, we can develop the research and development for you on exactly how you need it and how you want it, me or Brian's company. But we can work together. And that's the idea that we're planning. We're trying to do a lot of research and development on the composite side. And this is just on the composite. We're talking about the phytoremediation in order to try to give you better benefits, or carbon credits and all this stuff. Then I agree with Andrew. It will not be easy for you or for any other company. If someone is doing hempcrete and the only thing they have is a herd, the other 50% of the material, they're gonna throw it away. So then maybe the solution will be to grow it longer. But the main issue is going to be the lignins are going to become too hard, too brutal. Is it good for them to work with the herd? If it's going to be too brutal, maybe not. So it is better. And that's why we believe that we're not going to be creating products, but only being a company that provides the raw materials from the straw.
Okay, so I had a question come up when we were talking about transportation. Wanted to know logistics issues or what issues we may run into having a large facility versus facilities that are strategically placed all over the United States. how much money does it take away from the farmers if the facility is more than 100 miles away from the processor?
Well, I can answer that one on a way of, as a processor, thinking that the idea is what we're going to be buying directly from the farmer. And this is something that everybody knows. The farmers need to be around no more than 100 miles away from the facility, unless you have access to railroads. The best solution is to have your facility on a hub for railroads that have able to stop at the farmers so they can pick up the straws or the bales from the farmers. And then transportation, again, volume is again an economy of scales. Transportation is not that expensive, and it's faster and easier for the farmers to move it. Instead of truckloads, they put it on the train, they bring it to the facility, and we process them. So that's if you do it like that. If it's small systems, definitely it has to be a mobile or something very simple, very small, or very close to the farmers, because then transportation could be a big issue.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say that I don't think it's viable to go. You know, this is where you and I are going to disagree, Vinny. I don't think you can go outside of 50 miles. To me, the system that works is the elevator model. You have to go into the grain elevator model. You have to have farmers deliver it within 50 miles because that's all they're going to move it. They're not going to move it 100 miles. They're not going to move it 200 miles. And the reason for that is they can't afford it. If you look at the commodity pricing of hemp fiber today, you can't move it out your back door hardly. The reality is, if you are experiencing $150 per ton for a return on hemp fiber, that means you're going to have to grow, 6 ton per acre for a lot of these guys to make this effective. At least 4 ton per acre on dryland material. Now, I've not seen where we have the genetics that are supporting that yet. And when we do, what Vinny's talking about might start to make sense. But where we are right now, at the scale that we are, it just doesn't work. A farmer can't make it work for $450 an acre. A farmer can't make it work for $600 an acre. The fact of the matter is, corn right now, dryland corn, you're going to get $700 an acre off of it. Why in the hell would you grow hemp for $500 an acre when you can grow dryland corn? You're not. So we got to fix some of those economics, and the way, in my opinion, that works is through the smaller facility that then leads into a larger, a larger facility. You look at the way that, again, the grain elevator model, Cooperative Producers Incorporated or Aurora Co-op, they're very big in Nebraska, where I'm at. These are billion-dollar companies. They all have little tiny spots around the country that process it, that take in corn and then put the corn on an elevator or on a train and then ship it to, a larger distribution hub. And to me, that's the model that's going to work. The larger model, again, there's got to be a larger distribution hub at some point, but the drop-off points and the processing point have to be within 50 miles of the farmer, or those economics really start to fall apart.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables right there, Andrew. One of them is, you're talking about $150 per ton. So I don't know who's paying that. Our idea or motto is to pay $200 per ton. And the other thing that you may be looking at into,
well, that's just the current market price. I mean, if you just go off of what the current going rate is. So I hear you, but that's not what the market
but that's what that's what the market wants to pay. But we understand that this country was built on the farmers, and we want to give them a hand. We want to give them a break. I mean, it has to be a win-win solution. If we don't work together with them, the farmers are not going to grow for us. But forget about the price. The other issue that we've been looking into this is the majority of people growing hemp right now, they were thinking about putting 1,800 plants, 2,000 pounds per acre. And that's nothing. Right now, we're talking about putting 50 to 60 pounds of seeds into an acre. You're talking about a huge difference. We're going to be talking about high density plants. So getting 4 or 5 or 6 tons per acre is not going to be the difficult, because the plants are going to be fighting for the sun, and they're going to be growing. I mean, we have.
Well, it is. Well, but it is going to be difficult because we haven't done the field trials necessary to identify the varieties that we can do. So it's not going to be in 3 to 5 years, but it's going to be difficult in 2022, and it's going to be difficult in 2023, and it's going to be difficult in 2024.
if in Nebraska you haven't done tests with high density, and I completely understand.
Well, you haven't done tests in Texas either. I mean, to be frank, you haven't done tests. The only people that have done respective tests are going to be Cornell University and the University of Kentucky. And, you know, you could give Middle Tennessee State University a little bit of credit, but otherwise there's not a lot of respectable testing that's been done out there.
Okay. I'd like to circle back to the strategy, or to the, you know, for the benefit of the industry growth, and what it looks like as we're bringing products mainstream, and especially transportation, where I'm in Utah and there's not a processing facility yet. And so I can't hardly ask my farmers to grow if it's not possible. So, but Brian, go ahead. I saw you have your hand raised.
Okay. I wanted to speak to that last one, a concern in the radius and the additional things that there could be added to the equation that go towards the calculation whenever it goes towards the farmer deciding whether or not they want to, you know, grow something like hemp versus corn and the price point that you had there. There is also the more things to take into accountability, such as the input cost of hemp, where it's not as much water. So far as that we're seeing, and things that, you know, not so much pesticides, fungicides, all that stuff. So all of that is reducing the overhead cost of actually growing the crop itself, which would be offset by that price, and would probably potentially get it to bump above that price that you would have versus corn. Also, there's additional things such as the remediation of the soil. I think we can all say that anecdotally at this point, yet to be proven, but very much potentially something that could be a major factor in offsetting that, is whenever a farmer is growing something such as like hemp fiber versus corn on their land, the benefits of the crop growing after that hemp versus something growing after corn. So like in instances of cotton that we're seeing and right now, as I said, anecdotally right now, until, you know, data comes in and it's repeatable, testable, you know, scientific method like we all want to go towards, is that when somebody's planting a hemp fiber crop, the crops after that have the benefit of that soil remediation, the carbon sequestration and all that, you actually have cotton crops that are coming back the next year after that 10, 20, 30% more higher yield. And then the cotton crops grown after that, that's with no additional inputs to those cotton crops. So same water, same additives, same fertilizers, all that. And then you have a 10, 20, 30% increase in the yield just because of what was planted before it. So if you go to somewhere like Texas, where they're growing 5.4 million acres of cotton, and that's a $2.2 billion cotton industry, and if you're telling them that, hey, you know, you don't like your rotational crop as it is, now me presenting you the possibility of changing out your rotational crop with a hemp crop, where we can make it as, or maybe possibly even better, profitable material, but with the added benefit of increasing your cotton crop 10, 20, 30%, that is a huge, huge, huge game changer for that decision. Now, like I said, this is information that, with research, like you said, from Cornell University and in Kentucky and all that, and what's going on right now with Texas A&M University with the Dr. Calvin Trossel, they're actually investigating this stuff right now. So we'll see to the validity of that. But just the cut and dry saying that, you know, right now hemp is not profitable versus corn, I don't think is anything that we could make a valid end argument on right now.
No, it's true. It's true. I don't like it more than you do. Yeah. I'm one of the biggest proponents in this industry, but when you work out the math, it's unfortunately true. I've been trying to contract 1,250 acres of grain to deliver into North Dakota. And the fact of the matter is the economics don't work for most of these guys to grow it this year versus corn. And I wish that was not the case. But when you sit down and you pencil it out and you get down to the pennies, there's more pennies in this pile than there are others, the other pile. And you are spot on. We're seeing 15 to 25 bushel an acre better on corn rotation after hemp. And that
rotational crop though, man.
Yeah. And I think that that's important story to tell with this. You know, again, it's just one of those things where this year we're in a really weird commodity market. We never see commodity prices like we're seeing, where soybean prices are through the roof, wheat prices are through the roof, you know, sorghum prices, sunflower prices, pick a commodity. They're absolutely doing phenomenal. And those commodity prices are actually making hemp less interesting this year than what it ought to be, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Now, when those commodities start to shift, then this starts to make a lot more sense. And again, to Vinny's point, most of these problems fix themselves with volume. Once we have volume, this all goes away. This is no longer the problem that we're experiencing right now.
And also there is an additional, and this is something that I'm working on, it's something that I want to establish, and you know, government programs may beat us to this, but I would like to see the private sector get to this anyways. It's actually setting up an infrastructure where accountability of carbon credits. So we have that as an additional revenue source towards farmers that are growing hemp, especially for fiber and grain and all that. Where with, you know, for every 1 ton of hemp grown, it's 1.4 tons of carbon sequestered. That carbon credit actually goes to them on the supply chain. So what I would actually like to do is one of the things that I'm looking into is setting up a program where we supply that to the farmer as an additional revenue source towards that farmer, where they are accrued their proper carbon credits. You know, we don't take any cut of that. We set up the infrastructure for them for they're accrued that carbon credit. And then at the end of the growing season or whenever they want, they can just keep banking this stuff as much as they can, as much as they want, to sell that towards these companies that are wanting to buy these carbon credits so they can continue their business. So being able to not only give a crop that has the potential to replace a rotational crop and ease on the resources and all that, but also that additional revenue stream. I think there's a lot of question marks, and there's a lot of things that we haven't even begun to scratch the surface with when it comes to making this crop profitable for the farmer. But I do see that you have, your points are very valid. They are. I just don't think the entire equation on that decision is realized yet. And it's very possible that I could be wrong in completely all of this, but you know, we're definitely going to see that. And in case of that, then that just means that we're going to have to, as you said, increase with the increase in the economies of scale. That would give us the capability of being able to pay the farmer more for that crop to be able to bump it over that line. And also it depends on what they're growing for. If we're growing for just a base level fiber crop, then that's just one price. But if we're growing for a textile, perhaps a textile specific grow, where it has to be cut at, 30, 60, day mark instead of going to the 90, 120 day mark, then that's an additional, because they're not getting the height, we do have to offset that because they're growing a specialized crop and do that, do a price alteration on how we're buying from there, and that's a specialized crop.
One thing that you were talking about, Brian, is the carbon credits. And on the carbon credits alone, there's a lot of benefits that you can take into consideration. Melissa was saying that the $200 per ton is still not enough. And the question that I will ask is, how many tons did she do the math? 3 tons per acre is not beneficial. Tons per acre, yes. And maybe not here in Texas, but we have seen acres providing 8 tons in fiber. Long technical fiber. I mean, 8 tons per acre. But one thing is this, Brian, is carbon credits. So if you're going to be doing a not peeling, that's a beneficial for carbon credits. Not only the CO2 sequestration into the plant and onto the soil. If you're using less water, then you get better benefits on the carbon credits. If you switch from another crop into hemp, just by switching to hemp, you get better carbon credits. If you switch to a not tilling crop, then you have better credits. Depending on how you process the product, will you continue to capture the CO2, then you have better carbon credits, to the point that it depends on how much is going to be at the end on volumes. But I have done the numbers, and you can get between $350 to maybe $700 extra on carbon credits per acre. And the idea is to benefit the farmers per se. If you don't get the benefit of the farmer, it's only us. We're going to become, and you and I, Brian, we discussed that. We don't want to become the next tobacco company just getting more money into your pockets. Definitely, we don't want that. We need to help the farmers. So.
Yeah, they've been shafted one too many times, man. It can't happen again. And another thing that we have to take into consideration is this: is corn is corn and hemp is hemp. When hemp becomes corn, it's going to be a no-brainer. Whenever you get the growing practices and strains locked in like corn is, I mean, you have this specific strain needs this exact material, be planted in this much soil, it needs this much water, and it will produce this much yield. I mean, you go on YouTube and you look up the science of these guys working. You go to YouTube and Corn Warriors, I believe it is. These guys are maxing out the efficiencies on their bushels per acre like nobody else's business. And you start applying that ingenuity and you start applying the farmers to that level of working the problem towards hemp. That's I mean, you'll have what I believe you'll have hemp just launching way past corn in profitability with all of those things in the factor of it. So, but comparing hemp now to corn now is definitely, I believe, not fair. And to your credit, I don't believe you were. I believe you did say something, Mr. Bish, about years down the road, once this progresses, then that equation changes more. I believe you said.
Okay, I have a question that just came up too. Justin asked Andrew about your fiber cut sickle mower, and he saw it earlier this year. How much faster is the process with multiple heads than a single head?
Good question. To me, this is about a management issue. When we talk about long line fiber, short line fiber, you got to care for your stocks appropriately to get it to before you get it to your machine. And that's what we're doing with a multi-height sickle mower, is basically cutting it in 30-inch segments so that we don't have a lot of problems with the baler, and then taking it in, not having as many problems when we go into decortication. Not a lot of pieces of equipment like 10-foot long stocks. Balers don't like it. Bale unwinders don't like it. It makes things very difficult. So all we're doing there is just trying to be more efficient with the stock management. If you look at what happens when you try to work with swathers, you end up with a lot of crimping that happens with the fibers. And Vinny could talk to you all about how that damages the fibers in a way that make it less usable when you go into long line fiber processing. But we've got to make sure that we're managing the crop effectively from the time that we put it in the ground all the way till we get to the backside. And it's about using the right pieces of equipment. So that's what we're trying to do there. I would say that we might be around the same speed. I don't know that we're going to go that much faster, but what you will find from an efficiency standpoint is you will be more efficient in your baling, and then you will be more efficient in your unwinding.
Tell this, when people were asking about extraction, I always told them, you can do it with ethanol, you can do it with CO2, you can do it with butane and propane. At the end is what are you trying to achieve? When it comes to the processing or part of the slicing, and in this case, the way Andrew Bishop's system is working is they cut it into 30-inch lengths before they bring it to the processing facility. In our case, the only thing we do is we want it to be cut 6 to 8 inches from the ground as long as possible, because it's going to be on square bales. And then there's the cortication system, the one we promote, the one we use, is slice it at the processing facility. So we don't have that issue. But I don't think one system is better than the other. The question will be which one is better for your requirement. Maybe in one solution, our system is going to be the worst one for what someone is trying to do, and Andrew's system is better. And maybe for other solutions, our system will be the best one, some different things. So every single system has their benefits and their cons and the pros. And it will not be us deciding which system is the best one. I think it's the client decided based on their needs. Always go back to the needs. Remember, it's not which system is the best one. It's what are you trying to achieve? And based on that, backwards, I say, okay, this is the system. I want my long chemical fiber no more than 30 inches or precisely at 30 inches. Then maybe Andrew's system is better because he cut it at 30 inches. But if you want it longer than that, if you use the double cutter from Andrew, that will be not the best system. Maybe it's only the single. So again, the question is not which system is the best. The question is, what are you trying to achieve? And then go backwards and find the best system that will provide you the material that you require. That's always the approach that I've been taking. I think it's the best solution for.
Yeah, and you're right. I wouldn't even want to sell somebody my sickle mower if they were going to tell me that they're just processing hurd and doing short line fiber. It wouldn't make any sense. It's an efficient system for something that they're not trying to do. So it really is exactly like Vini says, understanding which is the system that's going to match your needs and how you're processing that.
Great question. What's the demand you guys are seeing right now for organic versus non-organic?
Irrelevant in my case.
Andrew, are you seeing very much?
You know, it's one of those things where we're so early. The fact that you can provide hemp fiber at all is interesting to people in the United States. So we don't see any difference in the price point currently where we typically would see that in an organic commodity. So there's requests for it both directions, but we're not seeing a lot of difference from a price point standpoint currently.
And are either of you processing grain? Can you talk to me a little bit about like processing for grain?
I can. I get really excited about this topic because this is, to me, this is the topic that solves most of the inefficiencies in the fiber market because it allows farmers to grow and produce a byproduct that obviously is not going to be used in clothing production, but does fill a lot of needs in the hemp space. So what do you want to know about grain? I could talk for days about grain processing.
Can we go over a little? I just think it's a topic that's not addressed very much. There's a couple of questions on here, specifically just breaking down the cost of grain processing or the differences in grain processing compared to fiber, processing for fiber. And so I think just in a general overview, as it's just not a topic that we talk about a lot. A lot of it is around fiber.
Well, yeah, and I'm going to say the reason for that, of course, I'm going to, be a shill for the Hemp Feed Coalition for just a moment, because the reality is until we can feed animals hemp grain, we've got a very limited marketplace. Humans can take it in plant-based products, but there's only so much hemp you can eat. And if you've ever eaten hemp, there's only so much hemp you want to eat every day before it's a little intolerable. But the reality is hemp right now for grain is really profitable. Organic grain is selling for about $1.15. A farmer getting $1.15 per pound, and they can maybe get 1,000 to 1,200 pounds per acre off their organic crop. That's a really profitable crop. Right now, we're seeing 55 cents up to 60 cents in some situations for conventional grain. And the nice thing about the grain crops are that if a farmer is growing for grain, this is typically a farmer that's already doing some sort of grain crop, and they likely have a lot of the equipment. So the cost of entry is really low for them to get into this. Again, the challenge is we just don't have enough pull on the marketplace. And even though we're getting a larger pull on the marketplace, there's not enough pull out there. And we run into the problem on grain. So grain is a little bit more cost effective in terms of transportation. I would say that we're cost effective in transporting grain up to 500 miles right now, but that's, with the way that logistics costs have been going up, that radius is getting shorter. And the reality is you don't want farmers taking their grain any more than 50 miles either.
Yeah, there's one thing that I would like to try to figure out with Andrew is when you think that it's going to be the same issue that happened with the biomass for CBD oil, no one was growing and then the price went up. I remember I was paying $115, $135 per pound of biomass when I was processing. That's why everybody was jumping into that wagon of grow hemp for CBD. Do you think that is going to happen exactly the same thing for grain? Right now, no one is growing, and as soon as everybody jump in, then the price is going to go down immediately?
No, I don't think so. And the main reason, I'm probably going to offend a lot of people here, but the main reason is because real farmers are going to grow the grain. That's the short and the long answer. And real farmers are not going to grow a commodity that they're not going to be able to make a profit off of at the end of the year. If they don't have a transaction in which that they have a contract to go to market with it, they're not going to do it. You're not going to see thousands of farmers across the Midwest do something stupid like people that left the city to grow hemp out in a field because they found 3 acres. And you know, God bless everybody that did that. But that is a lot of what the problem was in the hemp industry, is anybody could do it. The reality is not anybody can grow grain. If you want to grow 40 acres of grain, you better show up with $1.5 million worth of equipment. You're not leaving, you know, downtown Detroit and venturing out into the, you know, Midwest to start growing grain. That's not going to happen here. And so I don't see that, just because the person that's going to do it is a different person that got involved in the cannabinoid space.
Interesting. Okay.
I saw a question, Mandy, that on the folder you sent me is, what is the time frame for availability for the processing equipment?
Yeah.
In our case, the system that we want to install, it will take us a year to install it and be up and running. It's a long, long time to wait. And I guess Andrew's system is a lot faster than that.
Yeah, I mean, we can put a system together in, you know, 90 days, which again, it depends on what your size of your system is. If I had to put together a system that was going to do, you know, 12 ton an hour, it's going to take me longer than 90 days probably. So, and again, as we look at the future here, the more we see adoption here, we start to get more efficient with our equipment
Andrew,
processing.
Try to compare apples to apples. If you're going to be building something that processes 10 tons per hour, are you going to be separating the long technical fiber, the short fiber, the hurd, and the dust completely collected? And is it manually feed or is automatically feed?
Oh, this is an automatically fed system.
Is automatically?
Yeah, it's got a bale and winder, so you have to feed it a bale, and then it'll unwind it. The idea is that you can, you know, have a system of, you know, 3 to 5 bales on a track, and then as the one bale gets finished, then it feeds into the unwinder and then continues to go through.
Okay. Role of third-party certifications. We kind of talked about this briefly in the beginning, especially as we were talking about the separation of Delta 8 and Delta 9. But what are your guys' opinion and the value of the GMP third-party certifications? And
I mean, you know, the only labs that are going to be lasting are going to be the GMP certified. The other ones are not going to be working. As a matter of fact, you have seen a lot of people selling their used equipment because they couldn't survive. You know, not only the prices came down, then COVID came. It was just too many factors. And when you compare the prices of like a product or a kilo of crude oil or an isolate separated with a GMP certified, it's a lot higher than a regular lab with no GMP certifications. And the issue is going to be not only the GMP certifications, is what kind of equipment you have. Ahmed was saying something very important. Everybody can do extracting a kilo of crude oil, but almost no one can isolate a specific cannabinoid. I was a big proponent of chromatography because I was thinking that the only way to, you know, to have consistent formulation is if you're able to separate a cannabinoid at a molecular level. You go to drink your favorite soda or beer or whatever, it always tastes the same. It doesn't matter which restaurant you order, the beer or the Coke or the soda tastes exactly the same. But with the products that we have with cannabinoids right now, the formulation is not consistent because they are not able to separate it or isolate it properly. So the GMP labs, imagine Tylenol, that sometimes you have to take 1 pill or 2 pills or 3 pills because it doesn't have the consistent formulation. It will never go to market, period. But with cannabinoids, all the products that we have out there, we have a bunch of products that, and we did those tests on a bunch of conventions. You know, we tested with mobile systems and 50–60% of the products contain zero cannabinoids, and they were promoting 50, 20 grams, a bunch of stuff, and it was lying. So GMP certification will give you credibility, but so far, until we have the FDA approval for those products, then it's like we're just playing in the legality level of, yes, we are legal, but we are not legal because we're not going to sell for human consumption. And I think that's going to be a big push for the cannabinoid markets when the FDA gets the approval, if someday gets the approval. And I think they're about to do it. With the Delta 8 and the Delta 9, the issue right now they're playing is Kentucky issued a ruling that Delta 8 is on the Schedule 1. So basically you are a drug dealer if you are handling Delta 8. And then someone is fighting that legally only the Delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol is at a Schedule 1. Delta 8 is not. It's not legally is not on a Schedule 1. But there are states like Wisconsin, they are trying to get Delta 8 certification, so only certain labs are going to be able to carry it like a medicinal level. So, but again, you have to have the GMP certification in order to do it. And GMP says easy, but get the GMP certification is just extremely difficult. Not anyone can get it, and you require monies, the SOPs, and a bunch of stuff. You require a lot more money on that side, that's for sure.
Ahmed, I see you have a question. And real quick, we are at an hour. Andrew, I don't know where you're at for time or how much time either of you have before we dive into more questions, but it is 3 o'clock. I don't know how much time you have if I open it up for a couple more questions.
I got time for a few more questions.
Okay, go ahead, Ahmed.
I was just curious about when you are doing the processing for fiber, if you could give me a little bit of an idea of the weight balance of how much of this plant is fiber versus hurd, and what is the other material that happens when you get the fiber that you want? Like how much of it, of the other stuff is lost that would be around the fiber, this lignin cellulistic material?
So it will be depending on your genetics or how long you grow it. And it's just way too many factors. So we can just talk about roughly an idea how much it's going to be based on experience. And you heard that Andrew say that in the products they are processing, almost 80% or 90%, I guess he say, of his straw becomes hurd. That means only 10% is going to be the rest. The experience that we have had is between 50 to 55% becomes hurd. Between 20 to 22% is going to be long technical fiber. Between 8 to 12% is short fiber. And between 18 to 22% is going to be dust. But again, this is not science. If you use the same genetics on the same soil, the same SOPs, most likely you will get the same results. But it will be based also as well on the soil, the water, the nutrients, how many hours, I mean, the temperature. But roughly you're going to be getting that. But you cannot say for sure this is the amount that I'm going to be getting. It's impossible.
What are you finding, Andrew?
I concur. I mean, everything you said is accurate. What you will find, though, is as we get further along, we're going to start to see the genetics that really produce a better long line fiber, the ones that produce a better hurd, the ones that produce a better grain, and we're going to start, gravitating towards those, as time goes on.
Do you guys think regionally we will see growing for certain end products like the Midwest for automotive and textiles in certain areas where it's, young fiber is being harvested? Or do you think it will be more spread out and distributed?
What was your question again, Mandy? I couldn't hear at the beginning.
I'm curious about regions of which will be growing for certain end products. So what are your thoughts?
I guess it's going to be based on location. I heard that one company is trying to do it very close to where the Georgia Pacific is in Georgia because they want to sell it for textiles. I heard another company that they're trying to do it in Illinois because they're all the automakers and they want to make sure that they have that one right there on the spot. And it will be different focus, Mandy. No one can say for certain. And what I can tell you is some companies are going to be based on exactly, this is what I want to grow because this is where my buyers are. Other companies are going to say, this is where I have my farmers and I will grow it here and still be profitable for one reason. Herd, for instance, at least I know the cost as our systems can provide. You can buy the herd from Europe, the only one that I really believe is a good one. And you can buy it over there for between 23 to 25 cents per pound. Then you bring it here to the US, you add taxes and all the shipping, and it will be between 43 to 45 cents per pound. So it doesn't matter where we are. We know that our cost to produce a pound of herd is going to be 12 cents. So we can sell it for 30 cents and still be under the price that someone else will be getting it from Europe. So in my opinion, I might be wrong, you can be located almost anywhere because you're going to be cheaper than bringing it from Europe. Maybe other systems like Andrew's systems is smaller and they can do it cheaper and faster. Then it will be about location, location, location. But the demand is so big. And remember this, the US is the biggest importer of hemp fiber products alone. And even though my people might not be happy with that one, but the most recent agreement that Trump signed with China, China is enforced by that agreement to buy hemp fiber products. And hence, that's why China gave 90 million investment to Panda Biotech, because they thought, yeah, we'll do it. But how much they need to buy, Panda Biotech will not be able to provide. And by the way, I don't know if you know this, Brian, but Panda Biotech decided to buy the herd and dust processing from the same company we are doing our project, right? Because La Roche system doesn't include the herd and dust collecting, which is kind of weird because you need to know that almost 50, 60, 70% of that is going to be herd and dust. So on the where they're going to be located, Mandy, I think that you have to do your own analysis on the market.
Sure.
But in my opinion, almost anywhere you build it, you're going to be able to sell it.
So Panda's using La Roche? Is that what you said?
I'm sorry, Brian?
So Panda's using La Roche? Is that what you said?
Panda is using La Roche, but imagine this. This is how, I think this is the key when I'm talking about. You need to know exactly what products you want to build, and based on that one, decide which system to use. Apparently, Panda Biotech, they didn't do their own due diligence because they bought the system from La Roche, and they're going to have long technical fiber and short fiber. So someone asked them, what are you going to be doing with the herd and the dust? And they say, herd and what? So their system doesn't include herd or dust collection. Imagine that, Brian. So I'm laughing at that. But that is just to let you know that I think you can say it because I already told it. The vice president of agriculture of Panda Biotech was a voiceover artist before he became the vice president of agriculture. So that's that one. And the idea that they didn't know, they just bought a system less than a month ago, Brian. And they have 2 years building that facility and they didn't know. Imagine that, Andrew, the biggest processing facility in Texas, Panda Biotech, and they didn't have a way to collect or process the herd and the dust. They just bought it less than a month ago.
Yeah, they're, from everything that I can see, they're bird dogging textiles really hard. Like all their agreements have so far been set up between with that. I mean, if you go check them out and all of their head shed, their HQ guys, their network on like LinkedIn and all that is like solely like 99% everybody in the textile field. So they're chasing that one.
But
hard.
Andrew say it properly. You know, if you're going to have 90% of your product, what are you going to, no, 10% of the product for textiles, what are you going to be doing with the 90%? So when you're doing your processing, you have to be very smart to know exactly what kind of products are you getting, to know exactly, okay, this is what I need. I mean, you know you're going to get long technical fiber, the short fiber, the herd, and the dust. Just make sure you're going to be able to process and how to get rid. Even though they have great contacts with, and they just promoted yesterday another agreement that they have with an India company. I mean, 50 70% of the product is going to be hurt and dust, and they didn't know how to put. You cannot throw away 70% of your raw material. You can't. You just can't do that.
They have to fix that problem quick. Like that's absolutely insane to me.
I wanted to speak to a minute for where this commodity is going to be grown, because to me, you know, we can grow this in a lot of places. There are major challenges when you get below Houston in terms of latitude. The Rio Grande Valley, somebody talked about Calvin Trossel. He's a great guy down there at Texas A&M. He told me the other day that 30 days after they planted it in the Rio Grande Valley, it was flowering. You can't grow hemp that starts flowering 30 days afterwards and get a crop that's going to work out very well for you from a fiber perspective.
Addendum to that, if you don't mind, I had the conversation with him. That the reason that had happened, one of the reasons that they believe that it happened was because they planted that crop way late. I think they said like June, July.
Yeah, but they got a basic. Well, it's only April 20th, and it's flowering this year. So that's not the problem. The problem is there's not 14 hours of daylight. And so if you can't experience north of 14 hours of daylight, you're going to have to put lights in the field. That's not going to be cost effective. So wherever you are that doesn't have 14 hours of daylight, just like you got a tough row to hoe, I can tell you that. So we got to get north of there. So what does that look like? That looks like Lubbock, east to Oklahoma City, west to the mountains, and north to Canada. That's where
that's exactly where Panda Biotech is in Texas and Lubbock. So.
But that's the area. It's not going to. You're not going to do it in Iowa. Because your land prices are $10,000 an acre. You can't make it make sense. I live in a town called Giltner, Nebraska. My land prices are $8,500 an acre. You can't make that make sense here. So you got to look at where those land prices make sense. It's oftentimes a dry land area. You know, the sorghum places that do well in sorghum are going to do excellent with hemp. Not necessarily cotton, because cotton's gone everywhere, but that's the area.
Okay. Class is asking me if I am confident that China invested in Panda Biotech. Yes, Class, if you go to Panda Biotech and take a look at some of the research, the company that they got the $90 million is a company based in Shanghai. And if you look further, you know that it's the Chinese government. And the idea, and Melissa, is maybe are they trying to dump the price? I don't think they're going to try to dump the price, because that will be a stupid. They put $90 million into that facility. They want that facility to be up and running. They just changed their website. This is my opinion. I might be wrong. They changed their website very recently. And if you saw all the previous people on the board, there was a bunch of relatives and people related to the Biden government. And I think it was just prices for other things not related to the actual knowledge of the industry. If they dump 90% of their products, I will be losing money. I don't think they're going to be doing that. Most likely what happened is they didn't know, and this has happened all the time. I'm pretty sure you have seen it. Sometimes not the smartest people get the investment, like what happened with a bunch of cannabis companies. They got a bunch of investment and they lost it all. Looks at my High Labs, they got $160 million investment, and they're barely making money. And now their previous CEO now is getting into $100 million raising for money for fiber facility as well. And
yeah, if money and smarts went along, we wouldn't have world hunger. So yeah.
I'm trying to follow on the questions that are doing on the chat, which I think are important.
I was going to say, there's another question wondering what your next project car is, Vini.
For those of you who don't know, I worked on a 1964 F100 and a 1970 Chevy C10. What I'm working right now is a 1974 Suzuki RB at 90. They call it the Bam Bam. That was the first motorcycle that I owned. I tried to work on the side on something nice just to walk away from something when you're stuck into something so focused, and then it's nice. So that's hard, not right now, but the motorcycle I'm working on, you'll see pictures very soon.
Okay, thanks, Jason.
I was wondering how Justin knows about my card. So I'll let you know, Justin.
LinkedIn, I'm sure.
Yes. Eric, you asked how
Yes.
can additives apply to the herd markers and partner with them to make new materials? So
let me add, hold on, before you go, let me help specify you, because I know that's a very broad question, and I was trying to catch you before you run down, and I know Mandy's gonna kill me right now on the phone.
No, you're good.
Because I feel like sometimes she looks at me with these eyes like, Eric, shut up, you talk too much, and everyone here is getting irritated with my voice. But hey, at least I haven't been kicked off the group yet. So I'm kidding. But
hey,
so
Eric, hablemos en español, así nadie entiende. You know what I'm doing is, let's talk in Spanish so no one understands. So I'm sorry, guys. I had to make that joke.
No, I love it. I was saying you're so cruel, but anyway. So here's a question. Because here's the bottom line. And I know Mandy's tired of hearing this. So is Rich and everyone else who's been here for a couple of times and knows me already. So I've got this biopolymer. It's made from algae, and we're trying to push it into hemp fibers and hempcrete. Long story short, it's basically a bioplastic at a molecular level. We're hoping to get some fiber samples sent out to us soon at a lab in South Florida. And we expect to be able to make anything from a molecular size string to something thicker for the industry. And we're trying to push the limits of both products, fibers and hempcrete. Very long story there, I won't bore you with it, but my curiosity is, how do I position a product like that to get I guess like you said, the companies that are having this waste product to hear me out and just send me that waste product at a lab and just say, hey, we can, here's our waste, here's our trash. Tell us if you can make something new with it. That's my curiosity. Thank you.
Man, it's hard to tell. I don't know exactly what weights are you talking about it.
Plastic. It's what comes off the top of your head, Vini. I can tell you're a genius, you know. So
no, I'm not.
Look at all those plaques behind you. No, that's more paperwork than me.
Come on. Those degrees, the only thing you need to do is you have to go to the university, attend 3-4 years, and then they give it to you because you pay a month. Don't worry.
Wow. Okay. That's what I did. No, I'm kidding.
I'm going to say something about knowledge, Eric. I was getting my second master's degree in operations research. And the dean of the university, every time he was going into this, and Mandy, I'm sorry if you know about this because
you're good.
Every time he was going, he would show up and say, how are my high schoolers? And I hated, you know, he knew it was my second master's degree and he was always calling us high schoolers, and I hated for 2 years. At the last day, he came with a big phone book. It's like a huge book. It's kind of like a phone book. And he gave it to us. It was like 17 of us. Everybody was looking at it like, I don't care. I saw the book and I thought, oh my God, we're not high schoolers. This is elementary, not elementary. We're nursery. We are really dumb. Oh, we're stupid. And I was frustrated with that book. Everybody didn't understand what it was. Why I was telling that. Everybody was looking at the book and I don't understand. So the dean told me, can you explain and this is the first time he called me, Master P, can you explain them? What are you talking about? I asked them to see the book, and I asked him how many chapters, 26. Can you look at chapter 7? And they say, yes. So we are a master's degree, it's chapter 7 in a book of 26 chapters. We are that ignorant. At that day, I realized how ignorant I was. I never pick up that title, never. That day I realized I am a complete ignorant. So I'm just saying this to say what you're asking is research and development.
Wow.
And it has to do a lot. So to be to the point of.
Uh-oh.
Show you this.
There it is. I knew it.
This is amazing. You have no idea. Show you this and say, this is hemp of a polymer that I throw it away and 70 days is completely gone.
So Vini, hold on. That's like a hemp straw that you made, right?
Not like that.
So here's a question. I have someone that I'm working with out in California that's looking for that. So then let's take it to the next level then. So I was gonna speak with her to see if I could help make the product, but why reinvent the wheel if you made it? Then 2 things that come to mind. Number one, positioning a product like yours to the open market. And then second of all is tweaking your product with my product and seeing what pops out of it. There you go.
Yeah, it's doable. I mean, one thing is, it's kind of funny. I don't know if you have seen that. I talked to Brian very, I don't know, kind of like too nice. And Brian the other day said, Vini, I love you. And I love you too, Brian. And we put it in the chat. And Brian is doing a facility of, hope he beat me, because we're trying to do exactly the same thing. The same equipment, the same ideas, but even though the big difference is this guy is smarter and he's handsome than me because he's white and he can grow a better beard than mine. So you can see that. And I'm okay with that.
Than you.
This country needs several facilities like this, hundreds of this facility. And if I can help you develop something for your product, I don't think anyone will be able to take the world on straws. I have a friend of mine in China that he knows several years ago, he was importing recycled plastics to China. He's Chinese. And when they banned the importation of plastics, he said, nah, this is China, come on, they're not gonna ban it. 3 years later, they realized, oh yeah, they banned it completely. So a couple of months ago, China banned the use of straws. You're talking about 1.6 billion people using straws. I remember the other day when I was doing an analysis on Beijing eggs, they used 60 million eggs every single freaking day. 60 million eggs they eat every single freaking day. Yes. Every single, so imagine how many straws. There's no company in the world able to produce as many straws as only one city, Beijing. So imagine China, 1.6 billion. Imagine India, we need to work together. Brian knows this. I believe in team effort. And if you're successful, Eric, then I believe in the Bible. Everything you sow, you'll reap. Whatever I help people, Mandy knows, Brian knows, Richard, you know, and God bless you, man. I love you too, bro. So it is nice to help people. It feels really good. And Mandy knows what I'm talking about. It is really nice to help people.
So which product is going towards that plastic? Is that dust? Is that herd put down to the cellulose, or what is it?
You're asking.
Wait, was that for me or for Vinny? I'm sorry.
Whoever can answer the question.
Oh, Brian. Well, I mean, just for me to answer.
Bioplastics. What part of what product of the hemp material is that being derived from?
In your case, because you're using the same system, right? And if you choose it the way I design it or I set it up for you with Stefan, you should have the double collection, the dust collection, Brian. Remember that the first dust collection is going to be coming with some soil. You don't want that dust because that dust will have some soil. The second dust collector is only fiber dust. If you use that one, then it is great for the polymers and the plastic. But if you use the short fibers or the herd, and if you grind it enough to enough microns, it depends on the size that you want it, then you're okay, and we can do that as well. Either or.
All right.
But again, it's kind of like which system is best one. Is depend on your polymer and which I don't know the properties of your polymer that you're using on. In this case, Eric, the algae that it's used. If it's polar or non-polar, then you'll know exactly which kind of the material you're going to be using to be able to be bind properly. Because what you're going to be using the hemp is as a filler. It's not the it's not the backbone of the straw. It's just the filler. Most likely that's what you're trying to do, right, Eric, as well?
Sort of. I mean, I'd have to email you the spec sheets if you want, but mostly the way I explain it shows off as neutral. Like for example, for the farmers that use it on the fields for farming, you know, we always tell them like the pH is always neutral because it's neither negative or positive. But the polymer we sell at its molecular level is like Illumia, and so we work is that we offer no polarity into it, and so it depends on what you want to do. So for hemp, we were thinking about polarizing it so we could encapsulate the fiber, and we have a process for hempcrete where we can do it with no fire. So we put straw, ash, sand, and we were putting straw, ash, and so we wanted to replace the straw with hemp. And when you put our polymer in it, nothing happens, but we have to put an activator in it, and then the polymer reacts with the activator. It creates an increase in temperature. I forgot how much. And then it pretty much merges all the materials together to make the brick. And so that was a hempcrete idea. Go.
Wait, basically, Brian, what he's doing is he's using that as a lime binding agent for the hempcrete.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. So, I mean, I apologize for not being so.
I sent you my email on the chat. I think it's Vini at Global Fiber Solutions. I hope I write it properly. If not, maybe Mandy.
I'll learn.
Mandy,
Vinny,
has been a real pleasure. Yes.
Can I ask you a question? Are you using any of the PHA or PHB yet instead of PLA? Can you say that or not? It's okay if you can.
I don't want to say it, Richard. We haven't even filed everything for patent, but I'm pretty sure almost any chemist will let you know, and it's going to be very simple. Very simple.
100%. We're good. I understand.
Thank you very much, Mandy. Brian,
I love you, bro. You guys are speaking a foreign language for me. I did not know those terms. It was like when I tried to get into telecom, everything was acronyms. I didn't understand.
Buonasera, Mandy. Buonanotte, Richard. Buenas noches, Eric. And God bless you, Brian.
Thank you, Vinny. I appreciate your help.